The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has been working on an initiative called Engineering with Nature. It all started in 2010. And this is the EWN Podcast. EWN is developing and implementing nature-based solutions for water and infrastructure projects. It's bringing together a growing international community of scientists, engineers, and researchers from all kinds of disciplines that are committed to harnessing the power of nature to solve problems. The EWN Podcast tells their stories. Now here's your host, Sarah Thorne of Decision Partners.
As our guest can attest, nature is a powerful thing. She actually had an epiphany while hiking in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and, inspired by nature, let go of her dream to compete at the Olympics so she could pursue a career protecting the environment. Jeff and I know that you're going to love her story. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 6, our kickoff show for 2025. Jeff King, lead of the Engineering with Nature program, and I are really thrilled to start the new year with our inspiring guest, Robyn DeYoung. Robyn leads the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Green Infrastructure Program. Jeff, I know you've had the opportunity to work with Robyn on a number of initiatives. Please introduce her.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and it's my pleasure to introduce Robyn. We've gotten to know each other over the years, and it's been a great pleasure working with Robyn. As you indicated, she is the program manager for EPA's Green Infrastructure Program, and she's doing some amazing work within EPA and within this program, and I can't wait for our audience to get to hear more about that. And that's really where our worlds collided initially, is getting to learn more about what Robyn was doing. And of course, Engineering with Nature aligns really closely with green infrastructure. And so we developed a working relationship there. And then, of course, we had Robyn and her efforts to lead the Green Infrastructure Federal Collaborative, which I believe kicked off in May of 2021. And again, Robyn's leadership skills really come through when it comes to what's happening there with this federal collaborative. And I just was really super impressed with everything she's done, bringing the federal agencies together and leading efforts focused on nature-based solutions. But it doesn't stop there. Robyn continues to do so much in this space. And again, now leading efforts across the federal collaborative focused on permitting and how we can streamline and create more efficiencies when it comes to permitting of nature-based solutions. So many exciting areas where she's been working and engaged, and it's my great pleasure anytime I get to work with Robyn, and looking forward to hearing her story today. So Robyn, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So Robyn, it's time for our big reveal. Tell us your story and tell us how you got to EPA.
Well, there are two big influences in my life growing up. One is being outside in nature. I was always playing in the creeks in our backyard. We had a neighborhood group that would bike around outside. I would climb trees, jump off into the streams from the rope swings. And that gave me a deep respect and a connection to the land. And then the second influence in my life is playing field hockey, because my mom was a coach. I was always playing and going around when she was coaching. And so field hockey became one of my passions. And those two influences led me to when I wanted to decide to go to college. So luckily I was recruited at a Division I field hockey program and got to play the sport that I love and get a degree in environmental science at the Center for Energy and Environmental Studies.
Wow.
Wonderful. And then you came to a big decision. Jeff, we want to hear about that.
Yes, we do. Please tell us, Robyn, what is that big decision?
Yeah, well, after college, you think to yourself, well, do you want to continue 9 to 5? And I was so active, I thought, you know what, I really want to continue to play field hockey. And so I trained for the 2004 Olympics.
Wow.
And unfortunately, we were the 11th place team in the world, and only 10 teams went to the Olympics in 2004. So I missed my opportunity.
Yeah, so close. That's really incredible regardless.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was devastating, but I went back to grad school, got my master's in energy and environmental analysis, and started playing on the team. And then in 2006, you're thinking to yourself, well, what do I want my future to look like? And that's when I had to make a decision on what I was going to do with the rest of my life.
So that was a big decision point. Tell us about that moment and what put you over the edge.
Yeah, I was at a crossroads. So I went hiking in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, and I asked myself, what do I want my future to be like in 10 years? And I came to the conclusion while I was hiking, this aha moment of, I need to let go of, the 2008 Olympics and go for my environmental career, do something that's bigger than myself. And so that's what I decided to do.
Wow. Well, I know that was not an easy decision, and certainly having that athletic ability, I think, really sort of creates a lot of different opportunities in your life. You've got the educational background, the interest in nature, and of course this competing sort of interest in pursuing an athletic direction and career goals as well. And I personally am grateful that you chose the environmental path, Robyn. You've done so many good things in this space, working on green infrastructure, and so we're very fortunate and lucky to have you.
Thanks, Jeff. And I probably wouldn't be here today if I decided to go for the Olympics. I am an almost Olympian. I am a Boston University Hall of Famer from BU Athletics, so I do have that under my belt. And because I made that decision, things just started falling into place where I got this great job at the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. I moved to Columbus, Ohio, and I built the first credit trading program there. And at first, I was getting a little pushback and resistance from industry. They didn't really like the idea, even though it was a voluntary program. But then 2 years later, one of the biggest one of the people who were the most resistant gave me a call one day and said, "You know what, Robyn, I actually do see a benefit in this environmental regulation for business innovation." And this was my first lesson, realizing that you can align environmental regulations with economic prosperity. And that was very helpful for me to see early in my career how those partnerships can work if you're patient and businesses are smart and they are innovative.
Absolutely. We sure think you made the right decision, Robyn. One of the things that was interesting to me was when we were preparing for the show, you talked about how you translated some of the skills and experiences that you had playing field hockey to your work. And I thought it was absolutely fascinating. Can you share some of that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, field hockey was such a big part of my life. It was my everyday training, 3-4 hours a day, trying to win gold medals and traveling the world. I mean, going to Japan and New Zealand and India and Argentina and Italy, all these places. And when you're playing the best teams in the world, it can be a little nerve-wracking. And so I actually, yeah. I mean, so I started getting performance anxiety. And so I had to learn how to calm my nervous system down. And I learned breathing techniques and mindfulness and meditation. And that has translated into helping me with public speaking, handling difficult conversations. So I can handle difficult conversations better, be more patient. And that has been very helpful throughout my career.
Well, Robyn, now I get it. Now I totally understand why you look so cool under pressure when you're leading a group of 75 or 80 people, talking about what it is the federal agencies need to do to get behind certain initiatives or different action items that have been identified. So it all starts to make sense for me now. And I can absolutely see where this kind of training and experience can help on so many levels when it comes to the work that you're doing right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that is super helpful with the collaborative and everything is the teamwork.
Yes.
Because, the teamwork makes the dream work, Jeff, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, you got to be on the same page with your teammates. And I've been able to translate that into, at first I was like the analytical person when I first started at EPA in 2010, doing that analysis and working with states and local governments on clean energy stuff. And then now, as my role as a green infrastructure manager, now I'm thinking, great, how can we collaborate and use the people's unique talents and bring people together, and even bring people at the table that might not agree with you, but they have great ideas, because that collaboration and partnership is so, so powerful to be innovative and to find the solutions that we need to keep our world a healthy and safe place.
Hear, hear. No, Robyn, great points all the way around. And I do agree wholeheartedly that with that experience that you've had working with a team to achieve an overall desired objective, obviously with the field hockey winning games, having that translate into the teamwork and collaboration that you are currently leading and working across all the federal agencies makes a lot of sense. Really, really does. And this idea of identifying these goals, one for all for one, that kind of attitude. I mean, there's no better person, Robyn, than you. I have worked with you so much when it comes to these kinds of things, and you really are the epitome of selfless service and wanting to see everybody succeed. So clearly, you've got the secret sauce here, and you've got what's working, and I'm so grateful you share that with us on a regular, reoccurring basis.
Well, thanks, Jeff, and I love working with you too. And yeah, that is my mantra: all for one, one for all, for sure.
It sounds like you've really translated your passion into your career, and that's so exciting. Robyn, we want to talk to you about the Green Infrastructure Federal Collaborative, but I think it would be helpful if we set the stage and talked about the Green Infrastructure Program that you lead at EPA. So I'm going to start by asking you the first probably really dumb question. How do you define green infrastructure?
Now, Sarah, that is not a dumb question. I don't believe in dumb questions, and it really depends. Definitely don't believe in dumb questions. Because green infrastructure is not a term that people use in their everyday, right?
That's right.
It depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm in a room full of engineers, then green infrastructure means you're using natural systems, native plants, soils, permeable surfaces to help with bringing us back to pre-development hydrology, and so that you can infiltrate and evapotranspirate and reuse water for stormwater management to meet environmental regulations. Mm-hmm. But for the rest of us, the way that I define green infrastructure is, if I'm talking to somebody on the street, we're creating functional green space and other designs so that we can prevent flooding, we can keep our cities cool, we can keep our waters clean using natural processes. And examples of that, like rain gardens. You've seen a rain garden before, right? Or street trees. And so, bringing that down to a manageable level so that everybody can understand what green infrastructure is extremely important.
Yes. Well, and I thought Robyn's answer and response there was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And this idea of being able to communicate with many different audiences and certainly community members and sharing with them all of the unique opportunities afforded with the use of green infrastructure, it really does become a very powerful tool in the toolbox. And as Robyn indicated, achieving these different engineering benefits with how we can manage stormwater, but then also all the benefits that are derived for these communities with creating the green spaces and bringing more nature into urbanized areas. It's just a wonderful, wonderful approach to how we can achieve many different benefits for the good of communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need to align people's values with the work that we're doing so that they can see that the solutions are making their lives better. And, you and I realize that, and we have to think on a technical level, but we also need to talk about the solutions in a way that other people understand how they help them.
Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, just getting people to understand that trees, wetlands, and so on are part of our infrastructure, that natural infrastructure is part of the structure that enables all of us to live. That's a first really big step, just that engagement. So I think what you're doing is really important, Robyn. Talk a little bit about the focus of your program.
Sure. Yeah. And, green infrastructure is one of the things that helps with one of the biggest challenges today. People don't realize that stormwater is the fastest growing source of water pollution in the United States. And so what we do is we're mainly an outreach function so that we can help people with different resources and understand what the benefits are, the economic benefits and the environmental benefits. And so and also the social benefits. So we develop a lot of different resources that I know that there's going to be links in the chat, possibly, or links in the description below where, depending on if you're a stormwater manager and you want to build a bioretention system, we have a handbook for that. If you're looking to build green streets and so it's more walkable, and there's more shade when you're waiting for the bus, we have a Green Streets handbook for that. We have free webinars that we do with Peer Exchange. So we have models and tools. We have so many different things that we have out there. And so that's one of the focuses of our program is to make sure that we have free information so people can design, build, maintain, and monitor the green infrastructure in their cities and communities.
Robyn, can you just take us back a step and tell us why is stormwater the biggest pollutant?
Oh, well,
you got our attention on that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So it rains a lot. And whenever it rains, and also the rain is, getting more frequent and flashier. And so when the rain comes down and it hits pavement, it hits our driveways and it goes into our sewer systems, it's picking up oil and trash and dirt and all of that. It goes straight into our sewer systems that flows directly into our waterways. And if you don't have nature-based solutions there to capture it, absorb it into the ground, or to even treat it, then we are polluting our waterways whenever it rains.
Well, and Robyn, that's why what you do is so incredibly important, and to be able to offer communities and those individuals out there more information when it comes to how to mitigate that stormwater and how best to remove those contaminants and other materials becomes really important. And it's going to take all of us, I think, to really achieve the desired outcomes that we want with cleaner waters and cleaner lakes and rivers and streams and all those kind of things. And it figures so prominently into how we approach the development of new technologies and applications, and green infrastructure is going to play a huge role going forward. And the fact that you're sharing information across all of these different groups and making sure that information is available, I think that's another big component of why you have been so successful, and to be available and offering these kinds of products to your audience, your communities, decision makers. It's a big deal. And we frankly need it, and we need a lot more of it. And so, Robyn, thinking through this, I'm kind of curious your thoughts on where we are now, and then thinking through the significant challenges facing infrastructure needs, and what's needed within the United States today.
Big questions. Thanks, Jeff. And and we're not the only ones that realize our stormwater infrastructure needs help. Actually, the American Society of Civil Engineers, they have a report card that comes out every couple of years. You know about that, right, Jeff?
Oh yes. I seem to recall having a little bit to do with that at one point stage in my career.
Yeah, I know things come full circle sometimes, right?
That's right.
And so there's lots of different types of infrastructure in the U.S. Bridges and all these types of other streets and things. And so for water infrastructure, I'm always thinking about stormwater infrastructure. And we got graded a D in the U.S. for our stormwater infrastructure. So there's a lot of work to do, and there are a lot of challenges out there. I would say the biggest challenge is the aging infrastructure. The age of our stormwater infrastructure is, 50 to 100 years old. And so it's at about its lifetime that needs to be replenished and replaced. And it also was built in a time where the climate was different. We didn't have as many intense rainfalls that we have now, and the frequency of those rainfalls. And so flooding is one of those major issues that people around the country are dealing with today. They're overwhelmed. And what happens, and because EPA is very much about environmental protection and water quality, I want people to think about flooding and water quality. That can go hand in hand, because not only is the floodwaters pushing mud and trash and everything into our homes, it's also overwhelming our wastewater systems, especially if it's a combined sewer system. I mean, that's going to send sewage in our nearby rivers, and nobody wants that.
So for sure, big challenges, but with challenges come big opportunities.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's something you're really focused on. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we have to know the challenges to know where we need to pinpoint those solutions. So it's the flooding, it's the aging infrastructure, it's also the heat and drought. So I think those are the top ones to think about. And so the question is, what can we do about it? Right? I'm about solutions. And that's why nature-based solutions is such a exciting field for me.
Yeah, it's exciting for us too, Robyn. Anytime we can promote nature-based solutions, we like to do that, as you know.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell us about how nature-based solutions play an important role going forward in addressing these challenges.
Once people understand the value of nature in the water infrastructure, I think they really want to do something about it. And so, one of the ways that we could solve this problem is to dedicate more funding for green infrastructure and nature-based solutions. And EPA has a large funding source of our Clean Water State Revolving Fund, and a lot of the other federal agencies have funding opportunities as well. So I think if we can get more funding to our to nature-based solutions, that would definitely be a positive step forward.
Fantastic. And Robyn, I'm thinking back to some of the summers that we've experienced and the island sort of effect that happens with urbanized area and just that intensity around heat. And maybe you could sort of help our audience understand more about how green infrastructure even has this ability to mitigate some of that intense heat that these urbanized areas may experience.
Yeah, and it used to be that only the southern part of the United States was feeling the heat, but now people are feeling the heat everywhere.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I was looking at some data before this podcast, and I noticed that the number of days of our of the heat wave season has doubled since the 1970s. It used to be 35 days a year, and now it's 70 days a year. So,
Right.
and 2023 was the hottest year on record. So you pinpointed, Jeff, that heat is a big one. And so the biggest way to reduce heat deaths and our vulnerability to heat is to have more trees, have more shade trees, grow more trees, and in areas where historically may have not had that investment in those nature-based solutions.
It's a simple act of being able to provide green spaces and canopies associated with trees, but can create a world of difference, not only in sort of that shading component, but all that we now understand in terms of health and well-being. Now, Robyn, can you give us some examples of how you are advancing use of nature-based solutions when it comes to community plans?
This is one of my favorite parts of my job is working with communities, and one here I have a bunch of different examples. So, keeping on that conversation about heat, this past summer I was in Baltimore. I was invited by a community-based organization, and they wanted to show me how they've been building more urban tree canopy in their neighborhoods. And they showed me before and after pictures of before there were no trees and after there were trees. And, and cities like that and others across the United States, you can see a difference between 3 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit between in urban areas when there are no trees versus when there are trees. So that's pretty amazing.
It is. It is.
And one of the things that they wanted to do is now go from the tree canopy to do more stormwater parks and get a drainage study, because they have a lot of basement backups when it rains. And so I connected them with our water technical assistance program. And so now they're getting a free drainage study using our engineering services.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds like you're playing a little bit of a matchmaker there too, in some respects.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, Robyn, do I understand it correctly? Like over the past 15 years, EPA's partnered with over 90 communities in providing designs and this kind of support. Am I reading that right? Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally true. And we have a landscape architect on board, and we work with consultants, and it's been so exciting to be able to give these communities free technical assistance so that they can plan and design and envision what they want their communities to look like. One of my favorites is from Columbia, South Carolina. So they received our design assistance, and they wanted to create a greenway along their urban stream because they were getting a little bit of flooding, and they didn't have a walkable connection to their capital city district. And so it was a lot of fun to be working with this community, having the community members come together and the city planners to design and really talk about what do they want it to look like and how could they build more green infrastructure, new street trees and bioswales to help with flooding and to create that recreational space.
Wow. That's the full package there, Robyn. I mean, that's wonderful to hear. And 90, that's a big number. That's incredible.
It's
really.
a big number.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think what Robyn's doing is really expanding the playing field, if we could say that. And sounds like you're building a lot of teamwork out there, Robyn. in a lot of different communities. So
Yeah, we're hearkening back to field hockey, it sounds like, with some of these descriptions. It's all
I
coming
think so.
full circle, Robyn.
Oh, I love sports metaphors. I could do that all day long. So if you want to hit a home
That's
run,
good.
then I'm good with that too.
So, Robyn, one of the other things that I understand that you're doing a lot of work in is some really interesting outreach to students. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, working with students is a lot of fun. So what we have is a college student challenge called the Campus Rainworks Challenge. And we've been doing it every year for the last 11 years. And registration is actually open right now. So if you're an advisor or you're a student and you want to apply, please do. What it is it's a design competition. And we encourage universities and college students to think about how could they have more sustainable design on their college campuses. Or maybe there's a elementary school or middle school or high school nearby, and how could you partner with that campus to make their designs even more sustainable? So this is one of my favorite things. I personally and others are the judges for the entries. And one of the ones that I love to talk about, we have a case study. It's actually on our webpage, and it was from our 2021 winner. So UPenn students decided to partner with the Andrew Hamilton School, which was in a low-income area in West Philadelphia. And they had a lot of concrete and parking lot, and they were seeing flooding. It was overflowing into the sewer systems. And so they decided to build trees as well as a garden, a food forest, they called it.
How about that?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And this isn't part of the entry that you find the funding to actually implement it, but they did that after they won their prize. The students found funding, partnered with the Philadelphia Orchard Project. And now, if you go on their website, you can see the garden beds. They have their own. They have their own community garden that they're selling their food to. And now the kids have their own gardening after school program 5 days a week where they're in the soil. That? Yeah, isn't that so amazing? I love that.
It's great.
What an incredible example, Robyn. Yeah, I mean, that has to, create joy in your everyday life, and certainly what a testimony to the power of your program and how you're interfacing with academic institutions and, more importantly, the students, directly working with the students like that. And I got to say that, just the energy with which you shared that story and thinking through my own sort of personal experiences where I have a chance to go and interact with students at universities, it absolutely is the highlight of my career and also what I get to do for a living. And just really that energy that students bring to the table. And clearly, they invested a lot of time and a lot of energy in this wonderful example of creating this garden in an urbanized area. And boy, I think the tech transfer associated with that would be so incredible. And this is certainly, for me, a very inspiring example.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, we're helping them solve real world problems. Like they're taking their academics and they're going straight to real world in an interdisciplinary way.
That's absolutely. I mean, it comes across so easily in that example that you described. And so, Robyn, what is it now? You've fostered this community engagement. You've created a template for how we could be doing this in the future. And so, Robyn, I've set the stage a little bit early on, and I think that we need to spend at least a little bit of time talking about the Green Infrastructure Federal Collaborative. And so could you talk with us a little bit about that and how you've been able to bring these very different and diverse federal agencies together?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is that other part of my job.
Yeah.
Which I totally love. And yeah, so we started in 2021. We reinvigorated this collaborative, and we got approached by the White House to look at how to accelerate nature-based solutions in the United States. And that was also a great jumping off point for us because it gave us direction as a collaborative. And so we have over 150 people that have signed up as members. And we've been able to focus on two areas. We have two implementation committees. We have one on funding and technical assistance. And right now, if you go to the Green Infrastructure Federal Collaborative webpage, this is a mini advertisement, but
we like those.
Sure.
There's a funding 20-minute webinar style video and a 20-minute technical assistance webinar style video, because we really need to get into the video space here and to explain what is out there through video. So we have that right now that people can look and see, well, what are some of the options that they can get funding and technical assistance? And we did that through the collaborative. And then the other one is permitting and environmental reviews. And that has been really, really interesting for me because it's bigger than what I normally do with stormwater. It's a lot of other big nature-based solutions that I know, Jeff, you're working on. And so we have a best practice guide for federal agencies to better streamline nature-based solutions that are that need to get permitted, that need environmental review. There's multiple federal agencies that are involved with the environmental regulations. And so what are those 5 best practices that we can do as a federal family so that we can get more nature-based solutions permitted and out there in the world?
That's so important. And we know that's been like the holy grail for nature-based solutions for some time. So getting that document in people's hands is going to be really, really important for planners and project managers. Really critical work.
Yes.
Thanks, Sarah. And, and I've been enjoying working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on this project. So I want to give a special thanks to Kyle Gordon with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He's one of the co-leads of our permitting committee. And he's been really helpful in writing the best practice guide. And I'm excited that it's not just going to be a document that sits on a shelf. It's turning into cross-training between permit writers and nature-based solutions experts. And I know there's a lot of work going on in your shop, Jeff, about that. And so this is just it's great to bring all these different pieces together, all these people together, because you have multiple aha moments, and we're really building on each other's ideas to get nature-based solutions out there in the world, and people can use it and see the benefit of it and learn about it.
Absolutely, Robyn, and you're right. I mean, it's been my pleasure to work with Kyle now closely for a few years, and he's really jumped in and, to your point, has done so much on this permitting committee and has really been able to champion the effort internal to the Corps of Engineers across in the entire Corps enterprise, frankly, and has created a lot of momentum when it comes to how the Corps looks at nature-based solutions and can create some efficiencies around the regulatory process. And he's just an excellent communicator and now serves in our technical director office, and that gives me even more opportunities to work with Kyle. And he really has been a champion of engineering with nature, and just so excited to have him now in this new role and supporting a much broader part of the Engineering Research and Development Center's portfolio. So yes, yeah.
So, and we're hoping, in the future, we're hoping to continue to do that in 2025, is to continue to share information across our agencies.
Tell me more about, what are you thinking about in terms of focus for next year? What are you seeing on the horizon when it comes to your interest and your priorities?
Well, at EPA, we have, the last year, we've been developing a strategic agenda. And
okay.
I want to think 10 years out. I don't want to just think 1 year out, because you know how long things take, right, Jeff?
That's right.
So we have a 2035 strategic agenda for green infrastructure. And I'm a big believer in prioritizing, because if we try to do too many things, then we do them all very poorly. But if we prioritize and try to do a few things well, then it works out. So what we're prioritizing is, number one, is we want to start demonstrating the benefits of green infrastructure that align with what people value. So looking at economic benefits and other environmental benefits and the social benefits. We actually have some researchers that are looking at the mental and physical health of people and doing a literature review to show how green infrastructure and green space and other nature-based solutions are improving people's health mentally and physically. That's number one. Number two is we want to connect more communities to federal funding and technical assistance. And if as federal funding ebbs and flows, we also want to have some more sustainable financing, stormwater utilities, and other ways that they can get that funding that they need sustainably, locally, and at the state level.
Wow.
And then lastly, we want to continue to engage with communities. I mean, assuming we have the resources and the people power, add more to our technical assistance, engage communities for equitable outcomes, because we know there are so many communities out there that need those shade trees, that need to prevent the flooding that's happening in these urbanized areas. And we want to do everything we can to bring nature-based solutions into those neighborhoods in a way that they want to use them, that's culturally relevant, so that they can really take it and run with it.
Wow. Well, you've got a vision, and having it, that far out on the horizon, all of these different actions and activities that you've described are going to really move the needle.
Robyn, before we wrap up, we want to give you an opportunity to share your call to action. You've talked about a number of resources people can use, a number of things they can look at, a number of programs you've got going on. Tell us about your call to action. What would you have our listeners do?
My call to action is to go to one of our resources on our EPA website and download it and read it or watch a video, watch a webinar. We have so many different great resources out there depending on what you're interested in. So that's my call to action is go to our EPA webpage. We just redesigned our entire green infrastructure website area, so it's easy. You can easily navigate to it. And we also have a green stream listserv. So we put out new information in the future that's going to be coming out, funding, webinars, resources, all that kind of great stuff. If you sign up for our green stream listserv, then you'll learn about it right away. And that's a great way to keep up on the new things that we'll be producing.
Yes. Well, Robyn, we covered a lot today, and I knew you were busy, but I don't think I had a full appreciation for just how busy you are. And so many facets to what you do, and just thrilled that we could share your story and your journey with our listeners. And so I think that there's a lot more at some point that we should probably come back and talk about, in particular, future collaborations between your program and mine. And I think our listeners are going to really want to continue to share this journey with us and see what's next.
Absolutely. Robyn, it's been such a pleasure having you kick off our first show of 2025 with us. How you've translated your skills and passion into this incredible career. I think it's been really inspiring for Jeff and I, and we sure hope it inspires our listeners.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for sharing your story and the really important work you're doing in green infrastructure. We appreciate you being with us today.
Well, I enjoyed every minute of it, so thanks for having me.
Yeah. And Robyn, keep us posted, okay? We want to hear more from you.
Oh, you definitely will.
Oh, good.
We wish you a very, very successful year ahead, Robyn.
Thank you.
To all of you, thank you so much for listening. We hope that you've enjoyed this podcast, and we sure hope you'll join us again when we talk about engineering with nature.
You've been listening to the EWN podcast, developed by Sarah Thorne and Jeff King, National Lead, Engineering with Nature Initiative, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Now, for more information, you can visit our website, engineeringwithnature.org. The EWN podcast is produced by Eye Contact Productions for the Engineering with Nature program within the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I'm Dave Trafford.